Hey guys, it's Gail with Everything Nash here with Craig Cooper. We have not actually gotten a chance to talk before, but we're going to cover everything today. How are you
Oh
doing?
boy. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So I've known about you for years since Craig came out the first time. But talk about you and Walker are obviously BFFs now, but you have this book coming out. Glad you're here. Talk about it.
We do. Yeah, actually, it is available now wherever books are sold. May 3rd is when it actually comes out. And, this is something that we actually started over COVID. And he moved in next door in providentially right as the pandemic hit. So they had, decided to move next to us, and we were thrilled about it. And the world basically shut down, and they were right here. So we decided to quarantine together. We ended up, ripping the fence out between our two backyards, and it just enabled, the families to be able to go back and forth, from each back deck and come in and out. And we did dinners together, one night over here, one night over there, back and forth, back and forth. And then, Walker and I, all of his rights got canceled, and he came off the road. Everybody did. And his, touring on all of that just went to a screeching halt. And in the afternoons, we would sit down and we would write songs together. And that's something I did years ago in Knoxville. Nothing like songwriters here in Nashville, but definitely a passion, desire. So when he said, "Hey man, let's write," I'm like, okay. And so we sat down and we just would write. And all of our songs at the time, they were about Jesus. And we were encouraging each other. He was reading a ton. I was too. And then I had started a staffing firm in the fourth quarter of 2019. And it's a terrible time to start a staffing firm right before, a pandemic. Nobody knew. We had a great fourth quarter and a great first quarter, but March 11th, everything went to screeching halt. And then all of my clients were saying, "Hey, we got to put this on hold. We got to put this on hold." And I had built out a team of people who were doing the work that was remaining. So I started praying, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" And I shifted to a passion project of just writing. I would go to the park here, take my laptop and just write. A book that I had been ruminating on about, I was calling it something like God in Suburbia, about God's extraordinary work in everyday daily life. And, I was sharing that with Walker, and he was like, "Dude, this is awesome." And so, I said, "Would you want to, write the foreword or something?" And I submitted it to a friend who also in the providence of God during that time had come off the road and ended up becoming an acquisitions editor for Moody Publishers. And so when I just said, "Hey, you think there'd be any interest in this?" She said, there would definitely be interest, and we're interested. And so then I went back and said, "Well, I'm writing songs and everything and spending a lot of time with Walker, and he's cool with writing the foreword. What do you think if we kind of wrote this together?" Because a lot of it was touching on our friendship. And so anyway, a long story short, went back to the publisher, and they got excited, and we started doing that. This was in 2020, so way before Fancy Like or AA or Country Stuff, the album, You Girl, any of that. And we just were having fun talking about our stories and talking about his journey of faith and talking about, the stuff we had worked through together as past, and then where we came together and how God just did remarkable things in our friendship. And we got excited about it. And then about chapter 5 is when Fancy Like hit.
That's crazy. So you started this, Walker Hayes was having success, but you guys had no idea that Walker Hayes was about to become Walker Hayes.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember sitting in his, kitchen, and he's talking about, I don't know what I want to do the rest of my, maybe ministry. It was really interesting. And we were having heart to hearts. Everybody, this whole time they've dubbed as the Great Recession. People have thought through what are they going to do and changes they're going to make, and people working remotely, changing, doing stuff. And I think Walt had all cards on the table. Honestly, he's going to write songs whether they go anywhere or not. Right. He just loves that. He's also going to take care of his family and work hard. And
okay, so let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So Walker was struggling, working at Costco. He had lost his record deal, lost his publishing deal, couldn't afford a vehicle for his family. And along comes Craig and his wife, who gave them a minivan.
Yeah.
You realize what that sounds like, right?
What's it sound like?
Like, who does that? Who gives somebody a minivan? Like, I might give somebody $100. I might make somebody food, but who gives somebody a minivan? Yeah. What made you do that, my friend?
Well, they were, at that time, and even now, they were, family to us. They were just so close, dear friends. And so, there was a progression to that. We met them in January of 2014, and they came to church that night. Laura actually had invited Lainey, and Walker talks about how he hated Laura for that. He thought he was done with the whole church visiting phase, but we had just planted a church, and
you met on Saturday nights, and that was when he liked to drink. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
going. I've heard that. Keep going. It's good.
Yeah, he drank all the time, but yeah, Saturdays for sure. We actually met them at basketball for our kids. Lara recognized Lainey. They had connected at a neighborhood, gathering and whatnot. And so they started talking. Walker was holding Loxley at the time, and we had brief interaction, but we didn't really meet until Lara had invited Lainey to go to church that night, and then they said, yeah, we'll come. And for me, people do that. They'll say, yeah, we'd love to come, and you don't know if they're going to come or not. And so when they walked in the doors of Redeeming Grace, and this rented facility out in the boondocks, in the middle of nowhere, that we had on Saturday nights, like we were paying $700 a month just for the facility usage. In the church we were borrowing it, and they met on Sunday mornings, so we took it on Saturday nights. Well, they walked in, and I'm like, they came, he's here, what, hey. So he says, the first thing I said to him was those three words, glad you're here. And he felt it. And but we became fast friends. Even that night, I remember just going, hey, have you guys eaten? No. Well, y'all, you want to go eat? So we ended up going to a Mexican restaurant that they liked, and we ended up doing that nearly every Saturday night. So that they would come to church, then we go hang out and eat, and let the kids just kind of take over. We all took over the restaurant, and then we started spending time at each other's kids' sporting events, baseball games, basketball games, and then we found out that Walker played music, and he was doing a Walker Wednesday night at Puckett's Boathouse, probably 15 to 30 people there. And we started going to that, and I was blown away by his gifting, which I realized, came later in our friendship of us knowing that. But I say we were really close and tight with them, as families, celebrating each other's birthdays and kids' birthdays and all that stuff. So we knew when their car their van got impounded and they lost the vehicle they had after he lost the record deal. We knew that their kids thought it was hilarious. Walker and Lady obviously didn't, but we had let them borrow our van, and we let them borrow it whenever we went out of town. So if Laura and I were going to visit her family or anything like that, we would let them borrow the van. So. And we knew it helped, and came back, I think, from one trip. And I remember just saying, babe, I think we need to just give them the van, and let's figure it out. And she agreed. So we started praying. We didn't have the money at the time, but we started praying that the Lord would provide for us to be able to replace our van. It was an old van, and we were driving old cars, and I closed the deal in the staffing firm I was with, and I got commissioned for it, and just enough for us to go replace. And we bought an old Chrysler Pacifica, and then that night we cleaned up our van, and we took it to the ball field. There's no way you could imagine what God has done with this after that. We were just trying to love on our friends and meet a need. But that's how it happened.
Okay, so he told me when I last spoke to him, which was just a month or so ago, that when he wrote the song Craig, which first came out in I think 2017,
Yep.
he wasn't yet willing to talk about Jesus.
No, yeah.
To talk about Craig. And he said he thought he was being clever because it was this faith-based song-ish, but he wasn't yet willing to say the name of Jesus.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, no, yeah, Walker was a professing unbeliever, didn't believe in Jesus. And he talks about how he and Laney would argue over two things, drinking and Jesus. But yeah, I knew that, and we definitely knew that. And so I was praying for him all the time, two things. One, Lord, please draw him to yourself and change his life and save him. And the second thing was, God, please bless his career. And and I remember also Lord uses music to even draw him to yourself, even though he doesn't recognize it. So it's crazy, all this stuff that was happening. So when he wrote the song Craig and sent it to us in 2017, I was actually in a time where I was in a season where I was really discouraged in ministry. I'd taken a ministry trip. I came back from that trip, and I sent an email to our pastoral team. I'm not sure I can do this any longer. And also, I'm not sure if I should be in ministry. I was really doubting a lot, and I was struggling. And I had taken a walk that day in downtown Franklin, down Main Street, up 11th and back on Fair Street. And I stopped in the middle of that walk and just begged God. I said, Lord, I try to encourage other people. I really need you to encourage me, that you have me right where you want me. Or if you want me to do something different, let me know. But is there anything I'm doing that's making a difference in anybody's life? Please help me see. And then that night, Laura and I went on a date night, and I was trying to share with her how discouraged I was. And, her phone buzzed, and we were sitting in the car outside Chipotle, debating on whether or not to go to a movie, because that's kind of where I was. I was just so discouraged. I just let's check out. And the phone buzzed, and it was from Lainey. And I remember being a little bit agitated that Laura was checking her phone while I was trying to share my heart with her and tell her about that trip and how discouraged I was. And I was like, oh, babe, can you just talk to Lane later? And she said, well, it's got a file on it. It's got an MP3 and it has your name on it. And she was like, I think we need to play it. And we were accustomed to getting those from Walker and Laney. Anytime he'd write a song, we get to hear it. And it was amazing. And I love everything he's written. But wasn't accustomed to seeing a song with my name on it. And Laura persisted and then played it. And that's when I heard it coming through the stereo speakers. I met Craig at a church called Redeeming Grace. And I'm going, where are you going with this? Because I didn't know what this was going to be. Is this like a funny thing? What is this? And as he sang through it, I just lost it, as you can imagine. I mean, tears I just lost it. And I felt like God was singing over me through my unbelieving friend, Walker, even though he didn't profess faith in Christ. I was absolutely dumbfounded and stunned. And I just couldn't say anything and said, I'm speechless, as the tears were falling. And Lara just wrote back and said, Craig heard the song. He can't speak. He's speechless. And that's when we first, and then I was like, oh, Lord, I think you have me where you want me. And I think you're at work in Walker.
So you were part of his life, because he told me in that same interview that, when he first wrote Craig, he wasn't willing to talk about Jesus.
Yep.
And now that's all he wants to talk about. Like, he just doesn't want to talk about it. He said, anything else, if it's not Jesus, it doesn't matter to me. So you were really at the forefront of that big Walker Hayes change.
Well, I mean, by the grace of God, I think the Lord just brought our families together in a way that was, pivotal for all of us. I mean, it's very humbling, and it's so cool because it's so clear that it's God. It's just, Walker was, he was on tour when God really started using all of the things that had gone on in his life. And as you know, they lost Oakley, their seventh child. And that was devastating, really, just devastating. And I was with him in the hospital. There are no words for a moment like that. There's just grief and tears. And we held Oakley, and and I officiated her funeral, and then I watched Walker take shovels and his sons dig, and and then what happened, I think everything for him, he just he said to me, everything else feels stupid. Award shows, music, everything, just nothing felt as important as, family. And so God just, through a variety of things, was drawing him to himself. And he used tragedy and friendship. And, Lainey, it's amazing. She was at one of the ladies' Bible studies. Nancy Guthrie here locally did a summer series women's Bible study thing. And the ladies in our church would go, and it was wonderful to hear them as they shared. But she shared about a book that Rosaria Butterfield had written, and it was called The Secret Confessions of an Unlikely Convert. And she shared that with Walker when he was on the road, and basically said, I think you might like this book. Well, he secretly bought like the Kindle copy or whatever and started immediately reading it, even though she had one coming to them. And God used Rosaria Butterfield's story to amazingly soften Walker's heart. And just there were similarities in many different ways. And it was just amazing. And he would say, like, Rosaria had a family that walked with her, real tight, and God even used her writing to help see how God was caring for Walker through, like our families connecting and meeting. And anyway, he came back from a trip, and we went out to dinner together, and we're normally always with family. I mean, like we usually sit at this table or their table with the four of us while the kids are over there, like, yeah, and we feed them and all. So we always have conversations, but not usually that private. Like we went to a restaurant and we were at a sushi restaurant, and it's like, I had something I want to share with you. And I thought, what's going to go on with his career? What's happening? All this stuff. And he just said, I believe. Whew. And I said, you believe? What do you mean you believe? And he said, I believe all of it. And it's like, are you saying you believe that Jesus is the Son of God and that you want to live for Jesus? That's exactly what I'm saying. And I was like, I just got up, like grabbed a hold of him, and and I hugged him as tighter than I've hugged anybody that I can remember. And then I tried to sit back down, and I was like, hey y'all, I need a second. And I just went into the restroom and honestly shut the door, locked it, hit my knees in this dirty bathroom and worshiped, because only God can do that. And that's what God did. He took, an atheist, alcoholic friend who I love with all my heart, and he just over time just turned him into this worship filled, believing, follower of the Lord Jesus. And only God can do that. So it's been remarkable. But I will say, to answer your question, it's been amazing to have a front row seat to what God has done. Like, to sit at the table and watch it all unfold is one of the greatest privileges of my life. And I just want to see God do that over and over and over and over again. And so does Walker.
Are you still pastoring?
You know what? I pastored for 17 years,
Bless.
8.5 in vocational ministry full time, and then 8.5 here as a bivocational pastor, where what that means is, just two vocations. I was serving as a pastor at Redeeming Grace Church, but I wasn't paid for that. And then I was also just doing a job in sales, technology sales, recruiting, and all of that, to pay the bills and everything. In January, this January, we announced to the church, because we've got a fully set leadership team and everything. And I just felt like the Lord said, you did what I sent you to do, which was help establish the church, put it in order, get leaders there. And now we shift to this different ministry, which is really glad you're here and sharing. So that happened in January. So, yeah, I just transitioned out of the pastorate this year, and I'm so excited about the opportunities God's given through this book, and through our stories, and just making room to see, like, Lord, what do you want to do? Yes, I'm in.
It's good to talk to you, Craig.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you for reaching out.
I can't wait for everybody to read this book, and congrats and best of luck in God's blessings. I don't believe in luck, so why would I say luck? God's blessings on your next chapter of your life. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I love everything, Nash.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I hope we meet in person sometime, because that would be super fun.
I would love that. I would absolutely love it.